Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, some long-awaited updates. Just a week and a day ago, we hit 85 degrees in the Twin Cities, a new record for April. It is now April the 13th, Tuesday, and we've got snow, and we didn't get out of the 30s for the second day in a row. We hit 34 for a low here at my house, but I covered all the trees that had new buds, emerging buds, just to be careful. So the benches have been rearranged to squeeze everything together and give it a little protective layer from a potential 32 degree low tonight. And then we should be 33, 34 or higher for the next week, but it's going to be flirting every night. So the bonsai dance continues. I have my larger maple, the Japanese maple, that I'm going to do some air layering on in a couple months. The box that it in was a little weak when I was taking it out. It looked like it was going to maybe have some damage to it, like it was maybe not as structurally sound, so a little nervous about putting it back in the cold frame, so I covered that up as well. I got a blanket around the root system and the lower branches and a blanket up top, trying to protect some of those new shoots that have been opening up in the last week of our really early spring. So taking some extra precaution. Everything else that's still on the benches, those are the Minnesota hardy pines. We have a lot of the larches that have been outside, and one of them doesn't have any buds yet, so we're hoping that all does fine with a nice little coat of snow. The goldfish are back to a sense of dormancy themselves. They should be fine with the colder temps. They just won't be hungry for a couple more days until those temps get back up warmer, so they'll sit there at the bottom, not much movement. Though I'm giving them a little bit of a scare right now. There they go. And then the garage has been turned into a large cold frame. Temperature staying in the mid 40s overnight. Some on the freezer. Several there over by the new forest. Along the back. Workbench back over there. A couple on some buckets down low. Making sure that these, with some new buds on them, do really, really well. And the cabin cold frame that we just visited has all the plants filled in there that were sitting on the outside of that cabin. Protection from a hopefully last cold spell. So it's time for an update show. I got things on hold with the cold weather. I've gotten most of my trees replanted for the spring, which is awesome because it's not even May yet. A couple more to go. I got a couple of nursery finds today that we'll show in a different episode here down the road. But for today, here's a few updates on what's happened on some of the repots and prunes and things I've done here since the winter was starting to set in. So let's look at those right now, some updates for you. My first update is the Fukin Tea. I've had a lot of questions online asking about how the Fukin is doing. A little over a year and a half ago, when I trimmed this in the November time frame, I believe it was, I didn't get any growing until it went outside on the porch. This year I waited a little bit longer before I did trim it. We'll go back and show you some clips of when I trimmed this one most recently, and I've been doing a lot of picture taking from when I made the video till today. I can show you a couple pictures from January, February, and March, and now we're in the middle of April, and here's the Fukin Tea. So let's look at those pictures real quick, and then I'll do the spin.
But it all of a sudden just started taking off a few weeks before we were going to lose the summer warmth. And it started getting leggy. I brought it into the plant room, and in here it never gets below 65 or so, up towards 80 sometimes. And yeah, it has loved the transition. All the big leaves have fallen off.
I'll go ahead and give it a spin for you now. I believe you're looking at the back of the tree, actually. This might be the front. ahead and show you the 360 of the Fukin Tea. You can obviously see the branches where the leaves are growing. So this is coming off to the right side. The view from the back. Left side. And then as we come back to front where we started with the initial images before I cut into this one. So this is the update for the Fukin Tea. So for whatever reason this year, this thing started to take off in the plant room. So again, my plant room is somewhere between 75 and 78 degrees during the daytime. I've gotten 12 to 14 hours of light. I recently put my plant room desk over by the window, so it's going to get a little bit more natural light, albeit a north-facing window. But the Fukin Tea has done really, really well. We've got about a foot of growth on 3 or more of these. Look at these long bits of growth. Fantastic. Keeps getting flowers from time to time. There's a flower. And then they dry up and I get some more. Here's one back here. Nice flower there. So we're going to let this go. I don't think I'm going to trim it until we get outside and we get it used to the sun, because the transition back into the spring sun, we got to go into the shade for a couple of weeks, slowly get some partial sun, and then go full sun and then see what it's going to do. This one's starting to grow back here now. I see some new growth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shoots in all. So I'll be able to cut this back down, get it compact, and have a big summer push, because this is definitely all hardened off right here. This is hardened off all the way to the tip. These are still pretty green, hardened off maybe a couple inches up, so we want a little bit more growth before I start cutting these off. We would like these to harden off. The Fukin Tea. This update is the Melon seed Ficus. So this one has gone through a lot of different cutting over the years. I do have a couple of videos on this guy, so you can check the link in the description, and you can go back and look at this on the playlist and see what's been going on with the Melon seed Ficus. So I've had it for about 3 or so years and got a very nice thick nabari section, but there is a little bit of reverse taper right there before this big thick trunk here. I cut this way back, hoping to slow it down a little bit, get some more growth here. We do have a little reverse taper in there, but we'll have to see if we can keep this thing going a little bit slower here. So this is the current mid-April after I cut this one again a few months back. We'll show you some pictures first. Let's go back and see the journey from the beginning of the year or from my last video, December or January time frame. Let's look at that, few pictures, and we'll come back and give the spin. Well, let's go ahead and we'll circle around the tree. We'll give it a once around for you. You were looking at the front there. This was the back because of this branch coming right at you. It's kind of hidden or hides some other stuff. And again, back to the front. So this right now is the current front of the tree. I have this rocking here for just a little extra decoration. And we go ahead and circle around. You can see it's a very narrow tree from the side. Here's the right side. And the look from the back isn't terrible. These branches come a little bit more in our face on this side. Nice texture and curve on this side. It kind of swoops up this way, a little bit of movement there on the left side. And then we come back to our approximate front. So there is the melon seed ficus. About 75 to 80% of these leaves are all brand new. From the images you saw earlier, there was just a few big leaves left on here, and this is all pretty new growth in the last month or so. So it's been super exciting to see this grow. This will just keep bushing out until we get that spring transition again. We'll put it in the shade outside on the deck, and then slowly introduce it to some sunshine. Eventually, when the definitely when the nights are above 50 degrees for the low, and we'll start bringing this out and make sure that transition is smooth and we don't get any burn on our foliage. And so there you have the melon seed ficus update. This update is the fish tank forest. So the top of my fish tank here in the plant room, I have this box that I made that has the same stain color as my fish tank stand that I made. And I've had actually rocks and water that fell from this square box that fell into the water fish tank at one point. But I changed that, and this year I just kept it simple and planted some of my cuttings. And what I did in the last video for this, we'll go ahead and do some archival footage on this. Let's go back and see what I did with the forest. I knew when I was planting all of these cuttings into this big box, I had some roots that were circling around halfway, 2/3 of the pot, and going all over the place. So I transplanted these trees from the big box into little tiny pots, little plastic training pots. So the roots would all stay more contained, be really well established, and not go all over the place, and hopefully get some good ramification in there. So let's take a peek at that video, and we'll see how long ago it was, and we'll see exactly what I did with this fish tank ficus forest. But the main reason that I'm going to take these out of this pot and repot it is because this pot is way too big. So when I say that, most people will probably agree with the thought that the bigger you pot, the faster your tree is going to grow. And apparently that's true to a certain point, but not entirely true. So this has a lot of soil and a lot of space, and I have a way that I'm going to make sure that these trees are getting the growth they need and the stability of root growth they need instead of what they're doing right now. And part of the reason why I know I have to do this is because the last time we tore into this, we found roots that were growing like a foot around the corner. And I don't know where that one's attached to. Look at this root. Okay, so here's an example, everybody. This is what I'm trying to get to. Look at that long root. So I got a little bit of ramification up here, and this one's a little longer, this one's longer, but look at this one. And I probably broke the tip. So this one long leggy root here is not doing me nearly as much good as if this was all smaller, ramified. We'll cut that off and we'll replant that, right? It's going out to cling somewhere. So here we go. So I got this system right here. There's a good example right there. Okay. So I got kind of a leggy one here, not bad. But then this guy right here, where this nice new root's trying to form, I got some roots right there that are trying to ramify way down here. This root right here, this long root is not doing me any good. So we've got little pots. We've got little recycled pots that these guys still have plenty of room to grow in. And if I need something just a tad bigger, I can even try that. But they're all plenty of small when I cut all these extra roots off. We can get some ramified growth into here and fill these pots up. So I'm going to step back, take a peek, and not too horrible, but it's pretty uniform. I got 3 and 3 and 2 and 2 and different structures here. So I'm just cutting down to about 2 to 4 leaves left on all of these branches, trying to cut it in a direction that'll make a nice next growth. So here I can give some real specific rain right to those pots. They're going to soak in there. And then these trees will have small pots to get that roots all nice and ramified and get some growth. So as you look at my fish tank in my plant room, this was kind of the front. And I have another pot that just kind of sits right here with an aloe tree. Because a tree died right here. So I got rid of one right here. But I just put these in here, and this has actually been trimmed once, not on camera. I've trimmed these back once at least once since I made the video. So they flushed out, I cut them back a little bit more, and this is the second growth since that last video. So let's give it a spin here. I love how thick this little guy is. He's going to be going into I have a really couple of nice small bonsai pots, so these will be some great Shohin potential trees. Got a little bit of movement on some of these trees, but here we'll go. We'll circle around. You've got these two up front here. This one is a melon seed ficus, and the rest of these are either a variegated benjamina or a brush cherry, which is not a ficus, but a deciduous tree, which I just recently found out. Right here is a brush cherry. This is not a ficus. So I got a couple brush cherries here in the back. This one's got some great movement on it, real thick up on top. Here's another couple of brush cherry cuttings right here. These are going to do some good things this year, I hope, because they've been growing real well. And then I have my variegated forest. That's a bigger planting. This is cuttings from that. This tree's starting to develop really nice. I even put a smaller one in here, and it's still alive and growing. We have another brush cherry cutting. And then this is another one of my ficuses. I never remember the name of this guy, and it's got the bigger one back here. So this one's a little bit harder to see back there. Let's see if I can, right maybe from this angle. You can see this guy right here. It's a twin trunk. This one's split into three. I might cut this middle one off next. We've got a couple growing up here with 2 or 3 branches. We'll cut down to 2, but this one's really got nice and thick. This one's nice and thick. This guy's really nice and thick too. So these have all done really well in these little pots. So my experiment has done really well. I've actually cut these twice this winter, at least once since the repot, and maybe even twice on a couple of them, because I keep taking my scissors and I just a little nipping and tucking here. So one more spin. This is the fish tank forest with about 9-10 trees or so interspersed throughout here. The fish tank, a couple of koi and goldfish loving life down in there. They'll be going outside pretty soon when the pond warms up a little bit more. I got the bigger goldfish out there, but not those yet. Aloe. We also have a jade tree that's pulling along slowly, and then there you go. On top of the fish tank is the forest. Underneath the Unifun full spectrum light with all the color LEDs, so it makes it give that purpley pink hue. But there is the forest of all those trees. Kind of a funky color with that purple. They look much better when you turn them off. You get that green look. So there you go. The forest on the fish tank. You see that light is only about 8-10 inches above those plants. They're loving life. The last update for this episode is the Portulacaria Aphra. So I did 3 of these back in December, and from December until now there was a time in there where I cut back a second time, and I gave this one a new home. This was in a different pot, so let's go back and take a peek at that, how I put this in the new pot. I had rocks in here to hold this up because this twin trunk was a little bit wobbly. It's still a little wobbly, but I was able to take the rocks off. But let's go get a quick little update, how this started, the midway point, and we'll come back and give this a spin. So this is the front right now of the twin trunk. This one's a little bit in our face, so when we repot this, this might be a little bit better right about there. As we spin around to this right side, the smaller of the 2 trees, this is leaning a little bit back, as you can tell. And there's the back view from where I planted it before. And there's the left side view. And we go back to what was meant to be the front. Still a little topsy-turvy, little top-heavy. So I can go in here and I can prune some more of this right now. It's probably a good month before I can put these outside here in Minnesota, so I might prune these again. but I'm kind of thinking I might wait. I'm not for sure. But if you look super closely on this guy right here, these are little tiny new shoots. These are some pretty new shoots right here. We got some new shoots in the back right here. These guys are pretty new and little. Got a couple of little tiny ones up here. Super nice to see those. Up here a little bit bigger now, and a little bit tinier ones back here. This thing has done really well underneath the full spectrum lights there with all those colors. I got a couple of those. I'll make sure I make a link to the lights that I've been using. And again, this is in the plant room, kept at about 75 to 80 degrees in the daytime. And in my greenhouse area where I have the plastic around, I've been misting these things at least once to twice a day through most of the winter season. And we got a nice new little branch growing right out there. Now it is a bar branch to where it was growing before, but there's new growth right there, so showing you the great potential of back budding. So there's one of my PAs, the Portulacaria Aphra, nice and thick and bushy. Might give this another haircut before we send it out for the spring. We'll see. Since we're talking about the Portulacaria Aphras, from the cuttings back in December, I did a little experiment, and I put all of these cuttings into water and tried to root them with water. And I got a fair amount of success. I think I had over 75% of them take and get roots, and I put them into pots since. Now, since I put them into pots, I have 4 pots left. We'll go back in the archive footage real quick, give you a quick little 30 to 60 second update as to where these started. We'll come back and we'll spin them all. A little bit of a forest that's overgrown, and look at that. Look at that roots, huh? 2 inches on that one. You can see that with the main camera as well as the close-up, huh? So this front one here is struggling the most. It's closest to the window outside. This one also is by the window outside, but this that leads to outside that is doing a little bit better. This one is thicker. It's got a little tiny bit of growth right down here, right there, for a new low branch. It's got some, I've cut some off of this one recently. There's some nice little new buds in there. This one's doing really well. This one has just been kind of struggling. If I remember correctly, I talked about how if you plant these at an angle, you will get those curved trunks a little bit more, have things grow up. So this is all growing up towards the light. So we're gonna have some natural bends in the branches. These a little bit more stick straight. And as we go to back here, these two are in the greenhouse area of my plant room where I have the plastic, more light, closer to the plants. And look at the thickness of this one compared to these guys right here. So I've cut some leaves off of here, mind you, but here we go. So this is doing really, really good. You got this one getting a growth way down there. We'll cut that off eventually. Got some growth down here. Multiple leaves that have flushed out real nice. This one's super thick right here. And this back one right here has got a nice bigger branch right here. And just loving life. So these two seem to have done the best. This one under the greenhouse conditions. This one close to the window. And the other two so-so. So kind of mixed results here, about 50-50. But there you have some of the Portulacaria cuttings from December-ish, after a month or so sitting in that water, and then now a few months sitting out here, and they're all seeming to be doing pretty well. I absolutely love the spring time of year, so it's always great to see all this new growth. But the glory of this plant room and having some tropicals on hand is I got to watch these grow over the last 3-4 months, and the growth has been phenomenal. So the lights have worked really well. The extra heat I put in this year, misting a couple of days, a couple times a day because I was working from home with COVID, I think really made these plants really respond well. So I can't emphasize enough that a lot of the trees that we put into Minnesota in the wintertime, we should let them rest for a good 8, 10, 12 weeks. And then maybe do some work with them if we're going to, and keep the work light. Not the best time to prune most of the tropicals or repot and do all that, but sometimes out of necessity, we go ahead and do it. I do watch a lot of Nigel Saunders, my friend up north there, and the Bonsai Zone does a lot of those trimmings and prunes and repots throughout the winter as well, and he's had success. That's what's inspired me. I've tried all mine and I've not lost, but maybe a couple of small cuttings or some small trees. So the percentages have been good and I'm feeling good. So great to see this growth in the springtime outside, and really great to still see it here in the plant room. And in a few weeks, all these trees will be able to get outside and get some of that real light, the sunshine. Hey, thanks for watching. Take care of you. Take care of your bonsai. Send me some updates of your trees. I'd love to see it. Hit like, subscribe, tell your friends. I greatly appreciate it. And hey, we'll catch you on the next one.